Hey guys, this is Julia Miller. I am the founder and the director of Citywide Singles. For some of you, you might be seeing this on our YouTube channel, which is the Lone Star 355. And we are super excited because we have David Lowe here with us in our studio today. And he has quite a story. Some of you have already seen him on Facebook. You might see a little title that says David Lowe, RINO HUNTER. He has well earned that title, and he is here with us in my studio today. And Wendy is going to be interviewing him over the next couple of minutes about the race that he ran just recently here in my district as a state representative. But he has so many dirty secrets about what happens behind closed doors in Texas politics. And you guys know that we are just a couple of women that are talking about Texas politics. So you guys stay tuned all the way to the end of this, and I will be right back. Thank you, David.
David, we've got to start with this battle you just recently fought. What race did you run, and who did you run against?
So I ran for state representative in the Republican primary against the 5-term incumbent Stephanie Click.
Ooh, an experienced politician. And did that go very well?
So it was, I will say it was more fun than I've ever had in my life, right? It had ups and downs, but we were a little bit short at the end. Dirty tactics work sometimes.
Yeah, to say the least. Could you describe to us what kind of shocking events they pulled?
So, even the Dallas Morning News ran an article saying that Stephanie Click ran the most devious commercial during the political year. So they portrayed me on one hand as being so pro-life, I wanted to execute teenage girls. And on the other hand, they made me so pro-choice that I wanted to vote against anything to save unborn children. And that really scared away my voters.
That is ugly. That's an ugly thing, and that's a lie. And that isn't the only lie that was told about you. You were mentioning earlier when we spoke about the sheriff. Tell us about what the sheriff had going on in Tarrant County.
Yeah, so the sheriff was a part of a mailer campaign that portrayed me as a human trafficker and a pornographer. And
is that true?
No, absolutely not. I probably wouldn't have been a sheriff's deputy if that was true.
Wow. And so what was his excuse? Did he have an excuse? Did he apologize?
Oh, same political dance, well, I didn't use your name, or, it was like this or like that, but it wasn't directly, he had no evidence directing it to me.
Wow. You strike me as such a fighter to stand here and tell your story, because it was not only just a mailer and a commercial, they were spreading other lies as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. That I personally threatened Stephanie Click, that a group that I was, an anti-abortion group that I was associated with apparently has burned down. Abortion clinics, everything, whisper campaign. I moved into the district to run for office, all sorts of things.
And did you go talk to these people one-on-one about their accusations?
I did. What's funny is as soon as I go up to folks and introduce myself and I'm like, hi, how are you? I'd like to talk to you about this. Their tone completely changes. And they're always like, well, I didn't actually mean it like that, or I didn't use your name. Just
backpedaling.
Cowards, that's what I would call them.
I mean, really. And what a fighting spirit you've had. Because you strike me as a fighter. Can you tell me a little bit about your background in the military?
So I spent 12 years in the military. I was medically retired after Afghanistan in 2015. And, I've always kind of had a fighting spirit, from my childhood to becoming a grown-up. I've always tried to stand up for people.
Wow, and this is what has influenced you, right? Were there people that also influenced you as well?
Absolutely. My family, my friends. When I got out of the military, I was on the struggle bus and I needed something to do. And so I started volunteering for the Dallas County Republican Party, where I earned the Volunteer of the Year award. And that's really where I got hooked.
Right. So you believe in restoration?
I do. I believe that no matter what you have done with Christ, you can bounce back and see the light and Sometimes it's a little tough, but you just got to keep on fighting. I mean, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, so anything less than that we can handle.
Wow. So you're not only a fighter, but you're a faith fighter.
I am. I will tell you, after I got out of the military, I had not been in a church in like 20 years, wow. Right? And I was struggling, and I went to Watermark Church off of 635 in Dallas, and that was the first time I had been in church in decades, and I got hooked, and it has completely turned my life around.
The gospel has a way of doing that. And I love that you've had the support of your friends and your family, and that you knocked on so many doors together. How many doors did you mention?
I knocked on 9,000 doors twice. One in the primary, and then one in the runoff.
That's a lot of doors.
It is. It was a lot of fun. I've had doors slammed in my face and been cursed out, but I just smile and think, all right, time to go to the next one. It's a numbers game.
Perfect. And tell us a little bit about your platform, if you would. What things are you for? What are you against? You ran for state representative, mm-hmm. So what kind of changes would you like to see in Texas? Number
one, we have to protect children, right? This woke nonsense of gender ideology, gender modification, even indoctrination of pornography in our schools. We have to end all of that because children are our future. Education reform, juvenile justice reform. I worked as a juvenile detention officer, and I have seen firsthand the systemic problems from that, and we have to make a difference. Adoption, foster care. We are failing our children on so many different levels.
Absolutely. What about taxes? How do you feel about taxes changing our tax law?
Yeah, so I will be honest with you. The appraisal system is garbage. Okay, these municipal governments are calling up the appraisal office and saying we need to raise this much revenue. So then the appraisals are adjusted accordingly. There is actually no real mathematical method to the appraisal system. So what we need to do is freeze the appraisal system and make it more accurate. You can't go to Target and ask for 7.25% sales tax. So why can you negotiate your property tax?
Wow, that's a solid point. So they're padding their pockets. Is that the story?
Absolutely. For example, the Tarrant County Community College, right? They have almost a year's worth of rainy day funds, and they still voted to raise property taxes. There's always something to gain. There's always kickbacks. And, the little guys like you and I, we just get screwed over.
To put it plainly. Yes, I agree. And another thing that I'd like to talk to you about just briefly, if we have enough time, is the border. That's just such a hot topic, and I know that is not necessarily a state issue. It's supposed to be a federal issue. But don't you think it's kind of personal when the border happens to be our state?
Absolutely. We have failed at the border. I no longer care what the federal government says about the border. So the Texas Constitution allows us to declare war with another country. And I believe we need to declare war with Mexico and force Mexico to negotiate directly with the state of Texas. We can also use the Commerce Clause to support or shut down commercial traffic and force the Mexican government to actually make a difference. Also, kind of ties in with education. I want to get rid of Brown v. Board of Education. We should not be paying for illegal immigrant children to be educated with our tax dollars. Plus, we've got to remove the incentives to even come here.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I'm not against people coming to our country and wanting the same freedoms that we have in place, but there's a system, and there's laws, and there's regulations, and I think we should follow those. I'm a big pro-law person, as you are as well. And I'm just so in admiration of your life's journey. Is there a particular scripture that you subscribe to that is your favorite?
I do, but I'm not very good at reciting the Bible yet.
That's
because
okay.
I'm still a newbie. So yes, there is one. Matthew 11 and 12. I can't remember.
Oh,
exactly.
it's a goodie. It's one about people starting rumors about you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very
You know
fitting
what?
for my hobby.
It is, because you fought such a tough fought battle. And I'm just so amazed to see the smile on your face. Was it denigrating to you individually when you had this smear campaign run against you? How did that affect your family?
Well, so my wife, she got calls from people from around the state when they saw these slanderous commercials about me, and I thought, it really affected my family. And I will be honest with you, one of the mailers that was so ridiculous and so hurtful that I about threw up. I had to call my pastor and pray about it. I never would have done that to my opponent. I stuck to the issues, and that's what voters usually care about.
Right, exactly. I couldn't agree more. And I'm just so sad that someone would think that they needed to win something so badly that they would spread lies.
What's funny is this is the most expensive Texas primary House race in history. They spent over $2 million to beat me by 800 votes. Governor Abbott had to fly down here and
Really?
have a rally for my opponent. And I never would have imagined how disgusting this campaign would have gotten, or how much money would have been poured into it.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your story.
Thank you
I
so
think
much for
Jules
having
has
me.
that verse.
Well, look here a second. I didn't hear what you guys said, but was it for the words, by your words you will be acquitted and your words you will be condemned?
Oh, that's
that one?
beautiful. It kind of ties in.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me stick my head in here. David, one of the things that I was thinking about as I heard you speak is that you had a voice for the children. You really had a voice for those who have been victimized, for the unborn. And what it reminded me of when I overheard you and Wendy prepping is I thought of the scripture that's in the Proverbs, the verse that's in Proverbs 31 that talks about being a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves. And that's the way I see you, David, is I think a lot of people have seen the injustice and the corruption that's been happening in our political system. And most people felt like they just couldn't do anything about it. They're just like, well, that's politics. Politics is dirty. There's nothing we can do about it. And you know what? I really admire David Lowe because he took the bull by the horns and said, you know what? I think there is something we can do about it. He even put it along with his name on Facebook where it says David Lowe, RINO HUNTER. Okay, that's pretty bold.
Republican in name only.
Yeah. RINO stands for Republican name only. It basically means somebody who runs as a Republican, but they really are voting with the Democrats. And so, in closing, I want you to talk about one of the things that I heard you talking about on your platform, but most people at the time didn't understand, was about how the Republicans are giving committee chair places to the Democrats. Can you speak to that?
So it has been what they call tradition to have bipartisan committee chairs. So basically the Speaker of the House gets to appoint the committee chairs in the Texas House. Now, the thing is, one of the legislative priorities is to end that. The Republican legislative priorities is to end that because we consistently see legislation being killed by Democrats and not voted out of committee for the Speaker of the House to have a floor vote on it.
So this is the way I was understanding it, and we'll wrap this video up here in just a second because we're running out of time. But one of the things I understood is that people, so it was kind of like the bad cop, good cop kind of thing, that somebody who is a Republican could say, I'm walking this bill in here, and so I can go back and tell my constituents that I am a pro-life person, but they can send it over to a committee who is being chaired by a Democrat so that it could be killed off and they could blame it on the Democrats. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, but Republicans also kill their own bills. For example, Stephanie Click was chair of the Public Health Committee, and she got a bill that would have banned child gender modification in Texas. And she held on to the bill for 40 days before giving it a hearing, and then she sent it to the Calendars Committee, which actually schedules it for a House floor vote. But then they hold on to it, so essentially they kill it by delay. So the Democrats do the exact same thing.
Okay. Okay, so we were, I was hearing a lot of whispers about this. We were in a class, I think, through True Texas Project, and there was whispers all up and down people I didn't even know were talking about this, and people kept saying, who? And you'd hear this, Stephanie Click, Stephanie Click. And I was like, oh wow, people really know. And so I think people understand to a certain degree what's going on. They don't understand the severity of it because, like so many other Republicans, we're sitting around thinking, okay, we've had a Republican Senate, we've had a Republican legislature, we've had a Republican governor. All this has been going on for 20 years. How is it that we're having this very liberal agenda that's going on in our schools as far as pornography, books being put in the libraries at kids' schools, as far as they're being taught and being pushed this transgender ideology, and just so many other things. I mean, an open border. Okay, if we were truly a Republican state and we had our values that are our traditional Republican values, I don't see how these things are slipping through. But I think you just explained it.
Well, I will just say this: we've had, like you said, we've had the power here in Texas for 20 years as Republicans. Mm-hmm. We are a purple state. And that is absolutely disgusting.
Right? Makes sense.
Just on a side note, I don't know if you've ever heard of Texans for Lawsuit Reform. They are the largest donors in Texas. It's a bunch of billionaires that basically
I have heard about them.
They control Texas politics. And everybody who actually cares about what the donors think versus the constituents, they take money from TLR.
Wow.
Okay, but from what I understand, it's not what it sounds like. Like we think legal reform sounds like a good thing, but it's actually not a good thing. Is that correct?
Yes, it's to limit the liability for corporations.
Oh, okay.
And then it's basically a easy way to funnel money to different folks.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Okay, well, we're super excited about having David Lowe here. I don't think this is going to be the last time that you are going to see or hear from David Lowe. I think we will definitely have him back. He's been a very active member here in our community. He's part of my district, and I think that we are going to be seeing more of him, hearing more from him, and we are super excited that, you know what, David, I think you should be encouraged, because when we take a stand for what we know is right, God is on our side. Amen. And God is indefeatable. So even though we might win a battle here or there, it doesn't mean that we've lost the war. So I want you to hang in there, David, and we're going to continue praying for you. You guys, please, be aware. Go to David Lowe's page. We have not seen the last of him, and I thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Check out our channel, the Lone Star 355, over on YouTube. We will be putting up more videos with local politicians here in Texas. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.